I am the Executive Manager of Information Services in CSIRO, and the area I'm responsible for looks after libraries across all of CSIRO, as well as research data management, which is the part of data management which is the description and the discovery and access of it. So we manage the data access portal, which is CSIRO's window of data onto the world. We partner with the scientific computing teams within CSIRO to provide a more holistic service of data to the organisation. So the government's approach to research data it's several reasons why we would do this. One is to, from our research organisation's point of view, is to increase the citation and the reputational value of our data, which is increasing its collaborative attractiveness for our research. But it's also about reproducibility, and to our scientists that's the fundamental, that when they publish the findings of their research, they need to provide the proof, and providing access to the data through their publications or through software and what have you means that it can be reproduced and that their claims can be verified. Very important aspect of that. In terms of government data per se, government data is a huge input into research, and the imperative for the government to actually support that is really high. As we start moving towards building a greater innovation base in this country, we need to actually draw on that. And it makes sense for us to have a sort of more integrated access to that data as the way you would reference material in a library. The disciplines that are that do a lot of commercial work or have a lot of IP invested in their data will be less amenable to sharing their data freely. The disciplines that do work associated with, say, threatened species or anything to do with sensitive data like medical research will also want to be quite careful about how they share their data. But, for example, our astronomers who don't have any of those restrictions have very well established data sharing practices. In fact, if you want to use the telescope at Parkes, you have to register, and one of the conditions of use is that you have use of that data for 12 months and then it is immediately automatically out in the public domain. So it does vary across our disciplines. And we have to, in supporting the data sharing, we have to take that into account. We can't just have a blanket open data policy in the organisation, because there is a reason why we protect some data. If we publish, for example, data about where fish species are, we could be risking having those fishing grounds fished out. And if we publish information about threatened species, similar sorts of things could be threatening to the species to publish that data. So we have to have a policy that takes all of that into account. So in terms of the cultural change we've had to effect with regards to data sharing, the drivers for some of the researchers have been things around who's interested in my research data. I want to get some more, squeeze some more publications out of it. I don't want to have to process it to the extent that I would to share it. We need to educate people or raise the awareness on the fact that their data could be combined with something else for a greater research, that there is actually a return to them for sharing their data in terms of citation. And I know citation hasn't got huge traction at the moment, but it is increasing, and I want this organisation to be in a position to respond rapidly when it is, so that our scientists do get the citation rankings that will come following that. We are actually working at the moment in CSIRO around understanding the drivers behind data sharing, and we're just about to undertake a project to survey staff to see what the drivers are for them to share or not to share, and why they do that, and what we can do to respond to that. So there will be some work coming out of this that we will share with the rest of the community. And in fact, we've been talking to ANZ about working with them and seeing if we can't even extend this study outside CSIRO. Yes, well, we certainly reuse data in CSIRO. And in fact, the reuse of data has given rise to the fact that we need to manage licences. So an example of that has been where we went to publish some data, and it was derived from data that had been obtained from actually Queensland Government, and didn't realise that the licence on that data prohibited publication, and we had to do some negotiations to actually get it released. So licence management has become quite an important tool for us in terms of our scientists reusing other data and publishing the derived data that results from it. So one of the big challenges that we'll be facing in CSIRO over the next year or two will be around data integration. Part of that is integrating the data with other research outputs, such as publications and software and models, but it's also about integrating data across disciplines, so that the challenges we will have will be around competing or conflicting formats of data, but also getting the connections between metadata schemas and controlled vocabularies. We call them crosswalks. It's where you match the elements in the schema or the terms in a vocabulary with like terms or elements in the schema or vocabulary. And that will enable people to have seamless discovery across that data. The other aspect of data integration for us is about connecting it up to the tools to enable reuse. So one of the activities that we have at the moment in a program we're running is around developing a service catalogue. And by that, we're talking about the tools, the services that you put over the data to reuse it. And so we will be implementing that as another way of discovering data. So one of the services that we're developing in CSIRO at the moment is the eReefs program, which is about modelling data on the Great Barrier Reef. And you can get to the data through that service, as well as you'd be able to come at it from a normal catalogue. And being able to integrate the data so that it is where it can be used is a really important challenge for us.